Sweet. All right. So today we're going to be doing a little bit of talking about malvertising and kind of my take on it. Let's start with a little bit of introduction. My name is Rymdeko Harvey. It is a really long last name, and I know. Previous Army has already been introduced. And a couple places you can find me, Killswitch Tagline on Twitter, or my blog where I'm currently doing, trying to build up a name for myself in the, within the InfoSec community at cybersyndicates.com. I work for Verus Group as a pen tester. Some daily duties include anything from pen testing to red teaming, and I really, really enjoy it. It's been a great move to the northern VA area. We're always hiring, although this is not sponsored by Verus Group itself. I always want to give a little shout out for taking me and allowing me to come down here and visit the Augusta area. All right, so kind of like a little bit of a warning. I'm not a reverse engineering, SME or expert by any means. I'm not doing this every day, and this is really my take on what it would, take to build out basically an ad campaign, make it effective, and how to execute it. Pure speculation of what I found open source wise, and we'll basically be covering some of the basics of ad-based malware, some Ozan to go with it, and my campaign methods and some of my epic failures. So, a little bit of overview. We're going to cover what is malvertising, what is a malvertising versus, let's say, a strategic or targeted malvertising campaign, and what makes this so important. What don't I already know? There's a lot of knowledge in this room. Potential methods, maybe for social engineering, you could learn something from this. Maybe target a specific unknown group or, individuals within a demographic region. And also, what makes this so effective? What tools do I need? And what tools are maybe the enemy using currently or attackers in the wild? So let's take a little bit look at the current malware trends taking place. Phishing is still very effective. Use it all the time. It gets amazing click rates. And with that comes a large increase in security products in the realm. So attackers are moving away from that. In the last year, there's been over a 350% increase with ad delivery itself. Secondary and trusted C2 sources are being used with this. Some of the most recent stuff and some interesting research has come out in the Las Vegas side with the Cloud Duke tool sets and also Hammer Toss, things like that, using Twitter to disguise their C2. Exploit kits from years ago are still working to this day. People still not patching. And it all combines together to make this extremely effective. And most importantly, it's out-of-band communication. It's hard to detect what you trust. It truly is. So let's talk a little bit about the money side of it. Delivering malware, it makes some money. So maybe I want to add in a portion of like part of my malvertising campaign. I want to deploy with it, but at the same time, it costs money to deploy this malware. So I want to make a little bit up on the end. Maybe I want to, do some click fraud to click on some text-based ads, or maybe even video ads like flash ads, which are the newest and hottest thing right now. They're instant, I guess you could say, cash-out value. They return a higher impression rate, and also delivering, maybe say like ransomware. You'll see it as we go forward into this talk, the importance of the targeting aspect. Everything from what you make a year down to what you ate yesterday can pretty much be targeted today with the current analytic engines out there. And of course, legit business. There's a lot of companies that spend millions of dollars a year to advertise on social media, Google ad campaigns, stuff like this. It cost publishers over $20 billion last year in lost revenue between click fraud and the increase of basically global ad blocking programs. A lot of you guys probably even run like a script blocker, things like that. So let's cover what is malvertising. In my definition, it's really the use and abuse of a legitimate source of, let's say, intelligence, and then using that to be able to deploy and distribute your malware. And the interesting thing about this is there's so many ways to go about it. There's no one right way to do it. We've seen notable cases in the past 2 years, everything from compromised ad companies themselves to basically impersonating legitimate companies. Malware being hosted in ads themselves, maybe doing some obfuscation and being able to inject iframes, things like that, and also legitimate targeted campaigns. The last one is not being talked about much. In the past 2 weeks, I've actually started seeing some more chatter within like the news media talking about social media as a possible like breeding ground for potential malware in the future. So this is kind of unique. I'm kind of talking about something I don't think, at least from my research, that has been talked about much. Some core fundamentals. So who are the major players in the ad campaign realm? We have Google, massive. Facebook, second in play. And Facebook has a really powerful analytic engine, and that's what I use mostly for my targeting during my campaigns. Some of the main delivery methods, social media, we talked about that, some sponsored search, things like you see when you pull up your Google and right at the top you got, whatever company that you were possibly searching for, and they're right at the top. Most important compensation method that we're going to cover is cost per click, and we'll see that later down when we actually start running some of the malware campaigns, potential or theoretical campaigns. Ease of deployment. It's available to anybody. Anybody in this room can spin up a Facebook page and be up and running within, I would say, 10 minutes to 20 minutes. And they use everything from taking payments from Visa to PayPal. So it makes it pretty easy for somebody that's malicious to stand this up and get rolling. So what are some of the benefits? Cost. So yes, it costs money to deliver, let's say, potential malware, but at the same time, your malware is also making you money. And possibly, let's say, some of the APT groups, or I hate to use that word, but advanced threat actors out there, as you may know, they'll bring on, let's say, they'll spread out a botnet with some basic tools, some basic Trojan kits, but then they'll find something interesting, and they might want to stay planted there. They might bring on their secondary C2 stuff, stuff like Hammer Toss that was most recent in the news. Things like that. They're going to stick around, and they're maybe going to, so you might catch the initial exploitation, but you're not going to catch a second one. You're not going to catch the whole entire C2 running through stereographed images. It's going to be pretty hard to go about that. And measurable. Well, Google Analytics. That's what I use during this whole thing. It's easy to track your results. Everything's being built for you already. It's already out there. It's easy to build. It can be easily targeted. I think this has died. Sorry. Okay, I don't know what happened there. Sorry about that. So let's talk a little bit about the analytics itself. Like I said before, analytic engines at your fingertips. They're all out there. Google has one that's, I find, the most powerful. It's free. It's easy to integrate. Simple JavaScript code. And it's, unless they're blocking scripts, it's pretty hard to, it's not something that like people go out of the way usually to block. So I talked about before, broad, like a broad target. Maybe I want to target a specific zip code, or maybe something specific, job title. Things like that can all be integrated into your campaigns. And most importantly, it's extremely accurate. I found it's almost pretty scary to think of the stuff that you can actually integrate into some of these ads. I don't even know the legitimate resource or reason behind picking some of that, as we'll see as we move forward. And let's talk about some of the malvertising in the wild. I don't necessarily have any reverse engineering malware. I do have some samples and stuff like that on the side if anybody wants to hit me up after, and I can pass you some of the stuff that's kind of out. But let's go cover across the top 4 and how they're kind of going about it. Ad injection. I think about a year ago, a company called Era Labs released a write-up, which I don't know what happened to it. It's gone. I haven't seen it. They removed it from their blog. But it did have a write-up on some new malware that was being used to basically exploit let's say, a small business router, take over the router, reprogram DNS, simply make it so that when you go to query a web page, the Google Analytic JavaScript code is actually pulled out and replaced with your ad. It was pretty interesting. And at the same time, it scares me because not only now they don't have to target endpoints anymore, now they can just go after your router and now they can feed their entire ad campaign, making tons of money off of it without even touching one endpoint. And it's probably pretty hard to detect when your router's been pwned. I've never had to find that. Maybe some of the defenders out there have, but it may be pretty hard to detect. And secondly, passive collection of ad data. This one's kind of scary, and Google's been making some really big headway in this realm. For the longest time, ad traffic was in HTTP. So while you were browsing your website at HTTPS, secure, fine, good and dandy, but your site was leaking HTTP traffic the entire time for ad traffic. And some ISPs got a good idea that, hey, maybe I can capture this, take this data, and then sell it to other companies. This was discovered about a year ago in a talk in Canada, and it was basically a man in the middle kind of reproducing the same thing. Instead of injecting ads, they were actually just collecting the data and moving forward. Now, the interesting thing about that talk was that they said it was possibly being sold or maybe other collection methods. You take that for what it is. So what about exploit within the ad traffic? We talked about maybe injecting iframes, things like that. This is probably your more common one, maybe using obfuscated flash exploits, being able to pass the review process and then being able to deploy it through legitimate means. Maybe, you go to submit an ad to Google and it's a flash video, but in reality it's redirecting, injecting, let's say, an iframe, something of the sort, and pushing you off to a secondary exploit site. And then another notable case, maybe some news sources that have been exploited. They were basically going after the ad companies themselves, taking over the ad companies, and then placing their basically malicious ads legitimately on other main websites, sites that you may trust. I think there was cases of CNN, some other major news companies, and that's really the redirect and then basically drop an exploit kit as well. I think that one was particularly using like Angular, stuff of that sort, and it was basically for click fraud activity. So what about the exploit kits themselves? They are dramatically increasing, and as they are increasing, they're also evolving quite rapidly. Powerlikes, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it. It was registry-based. It was persistent, and it was quite scary for the time frame. And it was interesting because the first versions were just basically, building that backdoor C2 channel. But then the newer versions, I think it was 1.7, from what Semantic was saying, basically spotted a ad clicking component that was built into it. So you're starting to see it's starting to catch on. Now that was a very basic one. It had like 15 to 20 different selections of possible ads that they were going to go after a click, and it would just check for the C2 server, hey, what do I need to click now? But more of the advanced ones, Coverter. This is an exploit kit. I think it's been around from 2014 timeframe, and it evolved from a standalone, just drop the binary disk and then produce click fraud activity to now it's being wrapped up in packages for other exploit kits like Nuclear Pack and Angular, and it's being used in the wild that way. So that means that they've moved from just the basic simple binary to now you can wrap this entire process up onto other exploit kits and make it usable, and that's probably why we're seeing that great increase of ad fraud activity. So as a blue team defenders, maybe some of you guys are, why should I care? Maybe you feel like you're pretty secure. Well, in most cases, the security industry is increasing. I feel like it's moving forward in the right direction. Online attack surface is reducing. No longer when I scan external during an operation am I most likely going to find something. It's usually going to have to be through the means of phishing, something of that sort. And companies know that. Security companies know that. They're spending a lot of money to develop, platforms for, let's say, like FireEye themselves has a lot of like spam filtering, stuff like that sort. And they're spending a lot of money investing into that. So attackers know that they need to find a different route. And with that comes the delivery method. Do you block Twitter, Google, or maybe even Facebook at your border routers? Not many places do. So it's a great breeding ground to deliver your malware. All staying within that trusted source. We all trust these name brand sites. And are they really protecting us? It's a serious question, and we really have to start asking companies like that to, explain how they go about like protecting against malware. I mean, They say, oh, we don't allow malware to be in our ads. That's really generic. Thank you. But at the same time, are they actually checking? So we're going to discover some of that. Systematic problem. Why it really isn't an easy solution. A lot of times, campaigns like this may have to be run at a targeted side, maybe something zero-day level, flash exploits, where we're seeing drop all the time. So it's not like, impossible. And mostly importantly, it has to be funded. This is not something that maybe you start up one day and you're just rolling with it. You're probably going to need a couple K to get started and rolling. And we'll see that at the end as well, kind of what my statistics were and things like that. So now we covered some of the basic core fundamentals, stuff like that. Let's take a look at how I went about delivering an ad targeted-wise. So I built a simple methodology and I kind of stuck to it. I knew that I needed to select a demographic, a location, and I knew that I needed to select a target within there. And I knew that I had to do some basic Ozan research, develop a campaign from it, and then build some reputation development. I knew it had to be enticing for someone to click. You don't build a phishing campaign coming from a domain that's not even related to your target. It just doesn't happen, usually. Deployment, and then obviously deploy it. So, like I said before, Facebook was my key method of use. And I wanted to pick a couple different platforms, but I realized I didn't have the time to explore all of them. I only had a limited amount of time after work. I have a family. A lot of you probably do too. This is not my everyday job. So I knew that I needed something fast, that would work reliable, and that would give me results. And it seemed like the best one for me was Facebook. It seemed cheap, it was easy to set up, and it seemed like the reputation was easy to build for me. So some basic settings in there, the location. You can basically let's say like I want to target, I don't know, Fort Gordon area or something of that sort, or maybe the Augusta area. I can easily put that in. Age, may be an important factor to you, may not be. Gender, those things didn't really matter to me, but most importantly, the demographics. The selections under there is what makes this possible. So let's say we have a target selected, and we need to kind of understand what we're going after. How do we calculate it? How do we know how many people we're going to be hitting? And at the same time, it can give you a metric to basically, is it worth going after this demographic or is it not? And the interesting thing here is that, there's other nefarious means that you could use this kind of stuff for. Let's say you need to judge an organization size in a certain area. Now, these are not often methods of what we do in the pen testing realm or open source realm, but at the same time, it does happen. Other countries are out there are trying to target other organizations, from big corporations to government organizations. And I feel like even though Facebook's made some major changes since 2011, there was some collegial research that came out that, basically showing how easy it was to pinpoint down to the persona layer. And they did make some improvements, but it's still just not enough. So let's take a look at that. So I want to target, let's say some people in the Fort Gordon area within 25 miles. I want to see how many potential people I could talk to within military, Army, Navy, Marine Corps within this area. They give me 14,000 potential reach. That seems pretty accurate to me. I lived in this area before, so I went and started doing some open source research, and I found, hey, right on the Fort Gordon website, there's 13,000 active duty Army, Navy, Air Force Guard, and service members. Seemed a little too easy to me to be able to find that information that simple. Now this has some, background. It's not as easy as, this is pretty accurate. There's a lot of people on social networks. But I've also went after companies like Walmart on the side and their headquarters in, I think it was Kansas or something of the sort. And it was not very accurate. It was 50%. So it's hit or miss. Although this is 90, I'd probably say anywhere between 90 and 50% accuracy for selecting a sample. So let's talk a little bit about that Ozan. A lot of you do know what Ozan is. I'm not trying to, reteach something that's simple. But at the same time, the three important things we really want to, mark on here are the levels: the physical, logical, and the individual persona layer. And the most important thing here is that we're linking physical to the logical layer. We're linking computers to people possibly, and also the physical locations. Now we're able to deliver a malware that has been sought after for a long time by advanced attack groups and threat actors to deliver their malware to certain locations. If you ever look at a malware brief or any type of threat brief on a specific actor, they're going to tell you what likelihood of origin they were, right? And they're going to tell you a little bit about what they were going after. They'll usually give you like 50% in Russia, 49% in Europe, and this areas, and then maybe 20% Africa, things like that. And then you might not even see anything in America. And that's kind of an important point when you look at a malware brief like that. You're kind of like, okay, so where or who is this originating source? Is this something maybe stateside, or is this some source that's only wants to mess with Russian-based, equipment or something like that? Maybe they're only targeting Russian-based areas. So that's an important question that you always have to keep in mind. And now we have, let's say, a target selection. We have a couple possible, people we want to go after or organizations we want to go after. What things do we have to think about? We have to think about what are their work hours. Do we want to deliver at a time when they're at work, or do we want to deliver when they're at home? Maybe surfing at their home computer, accessing potentially, let's say, corporate resources that maybe VPN may not be. But I maybe want to target that because it's most likely they're going to be out of date, or they're not going to have the right patches for what I have. And at the same time, maybe I only want to target that specific corporation's network. So there's important things you got to keep in play. And then, what system? Am I going after a Linux-based? Am I going after a Windows-based? And can Facebook really tell me that information? So, you want to deliver your ads on a schedule. No problem. Facebook's got you covered. They have a simple layout where you just select the block and say, hey, Monday through Tuesday, I want to engage my ad from 6 to 9 to 12, and then maybe a little bit after lunch, and I want to stop. Or, let's say I have an operating system I want to target. Facebook's got you covered again. They say, hey, we have, let's say, primary Mac. I want to primarily target Mac, and I want to go after Safari. They got that. And scary enough, with a lot of the mobile exploits that are currently being released, you can go after certain brands, iOS devices, Android, or maybe even the specific phone type that you want to touch. So there is some serious power here. A lot of times we have data and we don't know how to use it or maybe correlate it. And in many cases, we're starting to see threat actors use this type of data to basically push forward with their campaign to find the end, like user hunter functions, stuff like that. Harmjoy, Will Schrader, if you know him, he built this tool called this tool set called PowerView, Power Up, things like this. They give you post-exploitation, basically situational awareness to be able to leverage and move throughout the network to pivot possibly. Using tools like that, they're critical in our tool set. A lot of times everybody's all hyped up about the initial exploit, but it's usually the stuff that's after is what you need to really worry about. Things like Wiggle. It's an interesting concept. Open source. Anybody can query a Mac SSID, and they're up and rolling. They can orient an attacker. Let's say you want to know where your potential target is. It's things like this that are really helpful. Some really notable programs are Social Mention and Honey Badger. Tim Tomes will be speaking later. Really looking forward to see what he's got today. And if you haven't seen this, and you're probably in this room and you might work within the IC community, it's pretty scary. Scraping LinkedIn for basically IC-related accounts, using keywords, and they build a huge database called IC Watch. The transparency toolkit, I don't necessarily agree with it. I don't think the reasons were there for the right reasons, but it's definitely scary. And hacking team, I know everybody's like, been talking about this lately, and it's probably beating a dead horse. But they had one interesting thing in there that I really found, unique. They had the ability to de-anonymize locations based on WLAN interfaces, not just going past what's in the registry, forensics artifacts, but now they were able to basically tap in, monitor your NIC, turn into monitor mode, and boom, uncloaking physical locations based on that. That's an important concept. This is the kind of things that this can help you achieve your end goals. So, offensive targeting. Imagine where you can only target people with a certain job title, maybe making a certain amount of money, because you want to target people that are high up, making 100K plus to deliver my ransomware. I know that they'll most likely pay for their critical data. Or maybe it's crime or collection methods. Maybe, state-sponsored malware or something like that is being used like this. I don't know. I haven't seen any research to support it. But at the same time, it's definitely worth bringing up before, or maybe even bringing up the fact that it could be being done and maybe enlighten it. And this could support the IC efforts in many countries. And I know it's getting in deep water, but it really could be used. So let's talk about some of the traditional targeting phishing methods. These are some basically blacked out versions of stuff that I've built for engagements with the OELL embedded objects, maybe even some like the OPM breach data, stuff like that, things that people care about in the government world. And they work. They work quite often. So let's talk about phishing. Very common, known. Something probably almost everybody in this room knows how the simple methodology works, and it's very successful in our engagements. But at the same time, these are the same principles I use to create my ad campaign. The same type of open source research that you do ahead of time on your target. I use those to create my ads. But there's a niche here that they don't have the ability to pinpoint demographics. You only see a username and an email address. You don't know necessarily who's that linked to, or possibly you do. Maybe you know it's just linked to the recruiting team, but you don't know what's behind there. And that's really where targeting comes into play with this platform. It gives you the ability to step past just the username and into their daily life. And of course, the days of dropping entire employee directories with a wildcard are most likely over. It's becoming kind of hard to detect some of to grab from an internet presence to grab a lot of that data for phishing use. And training has increased dramatically. A lot of companies, government organizations, they're all using some type of phishing training and have some type of SPF, framework built into play to prevent a lot of the spam that's taking place today. So let's combine it. I know that I want to build some type of social engineering campaign, but at the same time, I need to have something that's trending. Facebook's got you. Don't worry. Or Twitter. Or even Google. They have this great chart of the most trending topics. So hey, Ashley Madison. That was kind of hot when I was doing this. That's kind of interesting. And at the same time, I could be using these or pick a couple and just roll right with it. Another interesting thing is search engine optimization. Not necessarily Google search engine optimization, but really there's a tool set out there that I would say is not so trustworthy people put together to basically, let's say, put Facebook likes on your post or add Twitter followers to your account, things that build instant reputation and legitimacy. When we look at a Facebook stream and we're sitting there and we're like, maybe looking for the next car video out there, you're really interested in Speed Society's page, and you're like, oh wow, that has 50,000 likes on it. I'm probably more likely to click on that than the one that has 0 likes and no comments on it, and it's not trending. That'd be kind of hard to entice your users to go after. So using tools like this, you can basically build your reputation and also build your legitimacy. I did try this with Facebook. Unfortunately, a lot of the sites that were used to do this were actually cracked down within the past month or two. Facebook has been making a pretty big stride to stop this click-jacking, basically, method. I guess they have some big analytics engine that they're trying to stop a lot of this stuff. So I was able to do it with Twitter, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, and that'll be interesting. So what does this really mean? Now, as we talked about before, we can physically target to the logical layer, and now we can correlate location, jobs, and workplace salary, all that kind of stuff. So let's move into my 1-week campaign. My setup. I knew that I needed something simple, reliable, so I moved over and found something unique, like the domain name that was in this area, and we'll cover that in the next. I set up a VPS, simple Ocean VPS, and then I used Apache's vhost in case I needed more domain names. I didn't know how many ad campaigns I was going to run at the time, so I set all this up, and I knew that I needed static content. I know I needed the site to look somewhat legitimate so that when Facebook reviewed my stuff, they weren't just seeing a blank page with an index.html with some JavaScript in it. That doesn't look too legitimate. I knew I needed Google Analytics as a backbone, and I had $20 a campaign. I was going to run 2 campaigns. So $40. How far will $40 get me? And some good ideas. So I set up my Google Analytics account. I bought the domain augustacyber.com, and I was up and running. I knew I needed to build a relevant page. So I went to some logo site, built some cute logo, slapped it on there, and found the next cool cyber photo or whatever they had out there on Google and whipped it in there. And next thing you know, I was targeting cyber personnel in the Augusta region. I knew that I wanted to select a broad target. I wanted to see how effective it was from a geographical location. So hey, I knew Ashley Madison was hot. I was definitely going to use that. And I knew that there were, I've analyzed some of the dumps before, and I knew that there was some interesting information in there regarding some of the CSVs and Excel documents regarding credit card payment and the locations of those credit card holders. And I knew that that probably has been visualized somewhere out there. So I knew that I needed to have a tagline. It needed to be deceiving, but not 100% the truth, because the truth's not fun. And enticing. I needed something that was enticing on the image side. So I put together a clone website, found this data viz site that basically built out the entire Ashley Madison users by per capita and supplied it by zip code, and I cloned that website, and I was up and running. And I knew that I needed to build out a simple config. So I needed to alter some of the static code. I didn't want their Google JavaScript going back to them from my website. That would probably not look so good. And so I removed all that, but I left in the mirror tags from HTTP Track. They do supply mirror tags, and I said, hey, if Facebook can't detect that I mirrored this site and leave the tags in statically, then that's probably a problem. And I knew that I needed to make sure that if the thing was shared, that the proper meta property tags were in place to share the picture, just so that they would actually populate correctly rather than what I was building. Because when you build out your ads, you can select the image rather than what's actually being used at the website and automatically pulled in from Facebook when they do their initial query. So I originally came up with this. And it was this, somebody tweeted this out, and this is legitimate data. And this was done. It was de-anonymized somewhat. And I knew that, hey, people like videos. Like, I click on videos all the time. So I was like, I'm definitely going to use a video. Didn't work. They actually cared about this. They actually said, no, you got to actually have a video in your HTML source to actually like go ahead and put a video marker on your image. So that didn't work too good. But I came up with a different image. I kind of photoshopped out, put a zip code in there, bluffed the per capita usage, and next thing you know, I was kind of up and running with basically a nifty tagline saying something about verified credit card users near your area. And it seemed to work pretty good. So I knew that I wanted to set up an ad, like I talked about before, 25-mile radius within the Augusta region. I didn't really care about the age group too much. I knew that I could reach 270,000 people. I wanted to optimize it, but this time I wanted to kind of leave it open. But I definitely didn't want to go into audience network, which is anything from an app to potential other sites. I wanted to kind of keep this from Facebook, that way I can keep a lot of the results in play. And the schedule I kind of left open as well. Second ad setup. I want to do something a little more specific. I knew that, hey, last year there was this Chamber of Commerce meeting, and there was this speech about here, and there's been a lot of buzz about that. And I knew that cyber is coming to this area, so I knew my certain location of target would be Fort Gordon area. And I didn't select, I'm not going to tell you the exact target I used. You can infer that yourself, figure it out yourself, however you may do. I don't plan on releasing any of this, the data that I collected, but at the same time, I knew that I needed a tagline. I don't know, home values. Everybody in this area talks about their home values. And if you entice them to talk about their home values, I guarantee they'll probably click on it. That's what I was thinking in my head. So I knew that I needed to move forward with something that was kind of deceiving, and as well as it targeted a specific, let's say, work hours to kind of get the correlation to see if I could actually target those type of people. So I came up with an ad, simple layout, Fort Gordon, see an uptick and 2% value, and I knew that was that was going to probably do it. So, built the website, built a simple website, WordPress, nothing specific. I put some videos in there. We don't even need to show that. But the most important thing here is that I removed that WordPress site within 10 minutes of producing it. I knew that Facebook would review the site because from my logs, I saw them coming in, but I didn't know how long it would take them to figure out that I removed my original ad. Can they detect change content? Well, they can't. For 5 days or 7 days, or I think it was 7 days exactly how long this ad ran, they didn't detect anything was suspicious. Nobody reported it, and I even got some likes on it. Ad demographics. So, ad demographics. I knew that I wanted to target a specific group. I'm not going to tell you that group that I targeted was within a 25-mile radius of this area, and I was up and rolling. And specifically in this point, I want to make a note here that I used the desktop newsfeed. I didn't use the right column. I was kind of thinking as a user, I don't click on stuff in the right column ever. That's usually just ads. I'm looking in the middle column. I'm looking for the data that's most likely shared by my friends, family, stuff of that sort. So I made sure it was only the mobile and also the desktop newsfeed. I set up for a simple schedule from 9, 12, lunch, and then a little bit after work. I didn't want it running at night. Probably not the users I wanted to target. They have work. So, ad 1 had some decent analytics. 164 hits over that time frame. I started drilling down. I said, is my original goal effective? I wanted to target by geographical location. It was. I had 88 hits out of the total 161. Now, the data here that you see may be a little skewed because, remember, 25 miles, we're close to South Carolina. Important factor is I did not deselect traveling targets. So I made a mistake there. Basically, anybody that lived in the Augusta region would be targeted, but at the same time, anybody traveling would also be targeted. So if you want to do your own campaign, maybe make it a little more accurate, that might be the way to go about it. All over from Atlanta all the way to Martinez. So they also have a kind of an interesting tab with service providers, kind of the browser to kind of see what I'm hitting. And then tracking user agents is actually pretty simple with Google Analytics. And you can even look in your logs. I mean, those things are super specific for your user agent. You can tell everything from platform to what CPU they're even using in some cases. Second ad, way more successful. What was different? This one was a website promotion versus a post promotion. The first one was advertising my post. For some reason, Google seemed to have a better, or maybe my SE target was more well-defined and my audience was more receptive to it. I don't know, but I had 273 sessions with this one at the same price. 175 of those were in Georgia, and then a ton of those were within basically the Augusta region area. Something interesting here we didn't notice before was the not set. What is this not set service provider? Because a lot of times, AT&T, all these all come up as service providers. And inside Facebook, it said I only had 99% mobile feed impressions. But on here, it's telling me I have Chrome, Safari, all this other stuff. What is this? Why is it coming up as Chrome? I didn't understand what my statistics were. So I really had to ask myself, am I hitting my target? Geographically, it's easy to say yes. But what about the demographics? Is it truly accurate? Am I really hitting the ISP, or is the ISP kind of like maybe anonymizing me? Some of the page interactions can be very helpful to see if you're actually hitting your target, and maybe some secondary research. Of that 95 sessions that were not set, I went through and did some post-analysis on it and found out that they did resolve to some interesting domains. And this could be possibly to proper filtering or anonymization on Google side. I don't actually know the answer to that. But at the same time, it's important to verify your results and, maybe use a tool like Just Metadata written by Chris Trunzer, which is a pretty good one, to do some of the basic IP analysis. And then I want to know, hey, am I really hitting my target using maybe the likes and comments, stuff like that. All of the stuff that I found, the 8 likes that are actually involved, I did see that 8 of them were affiliated with my target audience, and I knew that I had to put this in context. What's the impact here? So I can target, fine, great. But what can one guy with limited funds do? He can run 2 ad campaigns. He can get 6 hours. In 6 hours, he can get 2 ad campaigns up. and you can easily engage over like 300, 400 people. So I put together a calculation. So let's say if I had 10K, a well-funded threat actor group, and 160 hours of a month, and I say I can bust out 26 unique ads within that month, 100,000 plus unique engagements, and at the same time at 9 cents per engagement. That's pretty cheap with a 1.5 million potential reach. So major findings, just on the Facebook side possibly. The review process is obviously a joke. Couldn't detect a clearly cloned website. The cloned website still had the favicon logos, static source of the original website. Did change around some. And they also did scan, did they even scan for malware? I don't know. Nothing that I saw from my end indicated that they did. It could have been all passive, obviously, so there's no real answer for that, and I was not willing to test something of that sort. Continuing monitoring, I did remove that one page within 10 minutes. At that time, I couldn't differentiate if Facebook went back and checked, but as far as I could understand, they didn't. So that means within 10 minutes, I could simply pull down my page and host a full autopwn exploit server from Metasploit and nobody would know. And there's no way for you to even report this in Facebook. If you click on that ad, you can't right-click on it and even report it. There's nothing there. So are they really protecting us? The answer is kind of. Google, they moved to encrypted ads as of June to prevent some of that, middle-in-the-man attack kind of stuff. Facebook did recently start a negotiation with Risk IQ, and they did start monitoring pages to protect users from malicious ads. That's an important fact. Maybe their capability is not there, but it will be in the future. And there's some really interesting collegial research on the net about detecting cloned websites, and so it's there. It's at their fingertips. They can easily integrate this kind of stuff. Some of the basic tips before we wrap this up. Proper recon is crucial. Social engineering is a must for you to be relevant to your target and the holistic view of the ad. Everything has to come in account. I didn't target specifics like what they had to dinner or they travel, things like that, but you can imagine what you do every day could also be integrated into Facebook to target your specific user. And I did make some mistakes along the way. I did call out one of my buddies, Jared Axons. He is one of the guys on the ATD team. And he found out that I did buy Twitter followers, and he pushed it out to the entire distro list that I bought Twitter followers. So I suggest you don't do that. And yeah, you don't want to get caught buying Twitter bots in the tech industry, all right? Some lesson learned. Twitter is a news source and not so much of a social source. As I did start collecting some statistics on it, it didn't seem to run well. I didn't have good results, and it might just because the reason or the way people use Twitter is more for defined usage. Like I'm only going after looking for InfoSec stuff, and I only follow certain people. I tried to build that reputation, but it just didn't work. And most importantly, it was scary easy for me to set this up and run with it. A big shout out to a couple of my buddies, Roberts and Matt. I don't know if they're in here right now, but they helped me along the way. They've been really instrumental team members, and I really want to give them a big shout out. And that's all I have. Any questions? Go ahead. So I plan on reaching out to Facebook after this. Oh, okay, sorry. So the first question was there a catch time, correct? What immediate for like delivering the ad, you're saying? No, there's roughly about a 1 hour review process, give or take, depending on the time of the day. At night, they blow through within 10 minutes. In the middle of the day, you're looking at about an hour. And then for the second question, for the sorry, say again. The reach out to Facebook. I have not reached out to Facebook, but I have seen that they've worked with other institutes before, university-wise, and I've seen like they'd probably be receptive, and I probably will reach out to them after this. But anything else? All right.
All right. Well, we've got some questions for you then for some prizes. So, first question, and if you come up with a trivia question, I'll hand out the first two.
Yeah.
Come up with it on that. All right, so I'll let you give out the rubber ducky. I'll give out the 2 books. First one for a red team manual. I'll look back in this corner for some answers here. How much money did Alex spend on his advertising campaigns? Here we go. $40 is correct. All right, and second question in this area, so after Google and Facebook, who was the third most used ad buyer? Microsoft, right? There you go. All right, Alex, you got a third question for the rubber duck up the front?
Yep. What APT group and number specific uses Cloud Duke toolset? Busby. There you go.
29. Come on down for your rubber ducks. And a couple more numbers.
Of course, that'd be somebody I know.
Tickets. Here's the numbers for the winners for the drawings. If you hear your number, you can go to the pickup booth to pick up your prizes.
Thanks, man.
Okay. If you